Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to impart techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is key to enhance our skills and grow as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Teach Yourself to Become a Great Manager, Moral Wisdom for the Modern Managers. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Surya Prakash, consultant at SMS Management and Technology, Australia. Surya Prakash is working for SMS Management and Technology as a management consultant and trainer. He has more than 12 years of experience in management and technology roles and has a strong background in project management, business management, and in the development of higher order socio-cognitive skills. Prior to joining SMS, he has worked as a project manager, a lecturer, and a lawyer. Surya holds 3 masters and 2 bachelor degrees, that is BSc, MSc and LLB from India, and Master of Information Technology and Masters of Project Management from Australia. He is a member of the Australian Institute of Project Management. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Surya.
Thank you, Mohini. Hello, everyone. In today's session, we'll discuss what makes a great manager. It's not the education that makes a great manager, nor it is a management degree or a qualification that makes a great manager. There is something else to it that makes a great manager. Our management education system is based upon school system, which was adopted from Britishers, and British school model is based upon where they were trying to train soldiers and they were trying to make them more disciplined. And during Industrial Revolution, this school model was now producing employees which were being disciplined and trained to be more obeyed employees. And now we have followed the same education system in a management education as well. So having any kind of qualification can give you required competencies, it can give you the qualities, it can make you a competent manager, but it cannot make you a great manager. To be a great manager, there is something else, and I find that answer to something else in spirituality. In the modern system, the way we do management, in the modern management system, the way we do our business is different. Here the whole corporate culture and the management system is based upon more and more and more. It is based upon greed. We have got sufficient in this world to satisfy the needs of people, but we don't have sufficient to satisfy the greed of people. And because of that attitude of more of everything, managers, employees, and the society as such is suffering from so many problems. They are suffering from psychosomatic diseases. They are suffering from personal problems. They are suffering from fragmented family life. And the answer to all those problems is in spirituality. And that is what it makes spirituality bridges the gap between a good manager and a great manager. The water boils at 100 degrees. At 99, the water won't change into steam. But a difference of 1 degree makes the water boil, and it makes the water to change into vapors, and that is 1 degree that is needed. We all are qualified enough, we are quite competent in the job that we do, but that's the point that I'm trying to emphasize in today's seminar, is to have that 1% edge that makes us a great manager. And my idea is that in the changing world, we should be promoting a culture where management is by self-management and management by values. The model that we followed in industrial revolution or the model that we followed 50 years ago, that cannot be used in today's world, because today we are not managing blue collar employees. What we are managing is that we are managing white collar employees, those who are quite skilled, and we need to have a different approach to managing them. We cannot have that same one hat fits all approach, and that's where this whole seminar is, and it is trying to marry the spirituality and management together. Management alone cannot survive. Management without spirituality is heartless. It is trying to dehumanize the process of management. Now, by separating ourselves from the world, we are grounding into a distinction that is as self and rest of the world. And that's what gives that culture of greed, that we become self-serving employees, that we try to satisfy our own interest first before seeing the bigger picture and the interest of the organization at large. So we divide our world into self and thus grounding on ourselves into separation. Now, we will be discussing these questions in the session as we'll progress. We'll move to the next slide. This is who is a manager, and I'll read it. A manager is a person that can manage itself. See here, the definition itself has that inclination of spirituality and the resources to achieve the organization goals and objectives. So a manager is a person that manages itself and the resources, and that's where it comes into resources. Humans are also called as resources these days, to achieve the organizational goals and objectives. So there are two things, there are three parts to it: manage yourself, manage resources, and then align the resources, management of the resources, with the goal of the organizations and the objective. Now, second part is, good manager must be able to follow all the functions of management, which are planning, controlling, directing, coordinating, and leadership. Now, here the question is, what is the definition of a great manager? In my view, the definition of a great manager is a manager who manages efficiently without compromising peace. That is, in my definition, a great manager. If that manager is able to do a daily job without actually breaking the balance of internal and external peace, he is a great manager. For that manager, there is no distinction between I and we. It dissolves. I and we, they become one. He always strives to have a win-win outcome. That's my definition of great manager. I have not been able to, I did extensive research to find a conclusive definition of what is a great manager, but I was unable to find any definition who could be defined as this is a great manager. So I came up with my own definition, which is open for debate. We could actually have a debate on this one, whether we agree or disagree with this definition. But that's what my definition of a great manager is. Now, what managers do, Mr. Drucker, he divided the job of managers into 5 basic tasks. First is sets objectives. That's fine. It sets goals for the group. It sets the goal for the team. Second is organizes. It divides the work into manageable tasks. That is organizes. Third is motivates and communicate. A manager is able to motivate a team member and is able to communicate the things very clearly. Fourth is measures. The manager is able to measure the performance of its employees and is able to do a performance appraisal from time to time and is able to provide constructive feedback, which results into development of the people. And he's also responsible for aligning the personal goals of employees. So that's where it is he develops the people. And this 5 basic tasks given by Peter Drucker still stands true, and this is in all organizations. Basically, this is what we are following. We are following all the managers, they carry out these 5 basic tasks. And in performance of those basic tasks, it makes a manager good, bad, awful, or great. Why managers are important? Managers are important because they deal with people and they deal in people. And that is the reason why managers are important. Managers, they need to identify the strength and weaknesses of their employees and try to improve the strength of the employees, not the weakness. These days in the modern world, what we do is we try to focus on the weakness of the employees. There is no one in this world who has got no weakness, and there is no one in this world who has got no strength. But the flaw lies in that we concentrate more on the weaknesses. As a manager, we keep highlighting the weaknesses of the employee instead of actually maximizing the strength, because it will take less effort in maximizing the strength than it will take to maximize the weaknesses, because it will take more effort and more energy to improve the weaknesses of the employees. So as a manager, we should be trying to enhance the capability of our employees to the maximum output. You can excel in life by maximizing your strength, but not by fixing your weaknesses, because your energy would be diverted on so many weaknesses, and the time will come when you'll only be able to reach an average position. You'll be a mediocre. But whereas the amount of energy and the effort that you have put in improving your weaknesses, if you use the same amount of energy in improving your strength, you'll be a better placed. Now, Google found out that typically people, they leave any company because of 3 reasons, or a combination of them. They don't feel connected to company's mission, or feel that they are not being valued in the organization, don't really like or respect their co-workers. Third, have a terrible boss, and this was the biggest variable. And where performance reviews are done quarterly rather than annually, saw huge swings in the rating that employees gave to their bosses. So this is the maximum reason why people, they leave organization, because of the terrible boss. And in these days, we are surrounded by bad managers rather than surrounded by good managers. And there was a survey done by Business Insider in which it was 41% of people, they responded that they disliked boss. And because of that reason, they quit their jobs. So why managers are important? Managers are important because they are responsible for dealing with people and dealing in people and in retaining their employees and in motivating their employees. What happens is, if the manager is a bad manager, he is going to hurt the morale of the employees. He is going to hurt the relationship with the customers, and he will be responsible for making bad decisions. And these days we are surrounded by bad managers, and this is, I don't say that. There are so many principles that people, they have put forward so many reasons citing that bad managers are very common in our workplace. And there is something which is called as Peter's principle, and he says that in hierarchy, everyone reaches their incompetency. What it says is that when people, they are competent at the lower level, they are made managers, and as soon as they become managers, they become incompetent. So he says that every competent employee rises to an incompetency. Now there is another one, Dilbert principle, which says that incompetent employees are systematically moved or sidelined so that they can cause less damage to the management. So this is the definition of a manager. A manager who is incompetent, a person who is incompetent, is systematically moved up where they can do least damage to the production. And there's another Putt's law, which says that in technology, it is dominated by 2 types of people. Those who know what they are not managing, and those who don't know what they are managing. So basically, that type, and even Peter Drucker, he had that view that a management is to make the work of others easier. Management is not to make the work of others difficult. And with this kind of management system that we have in place, if we seriously ask this question to ourselves, are we making the work of other employees easier? Are we making the work of our team members easier? The answer that we'll get is, no, we are not making the work of other people easier, but we are rather complicating it, and we are making it more difficult for people to perform their work. So it's making it more complex rather than making it simpler. I will move to the next slide. Now, Jack Welch, he was a chairman and CEO of General Electric, and he came up with 4 types of managers. One, he said that people, those who have high values and who are able to perform, they are good or capable managers. In the second, does not deliver, he's a poor manager. He has got no values and he's not able to deliver. He's a poor manager. Third is awful manager. He is low in values and low in performance. An average manager is that he delivers results but low in values. And the values that we have here is the organizational values, the mission of the organization. So a good manager is a person who has got high values of the organization and who is able to deliver it, and he always strives to make a right balance between the values and the outcomes. And on that basis, we have got 4. We'll move to the next one. Here. Now, we have got awful, we have got poor, we have got mediocre, we have got capable, we have got great. There was one article which appeared in Harvard Review, and the name of that article was, "Are you a good boss or a great one?" And Linda and Kent, they were the author of that article, and they suggested that the primary reason why most of the managers, they are stuck below the grade is because they stop investing, they stop investing in themselves. Investing is missing in this. So it's because they stop investing or working on themselves. So that is one of the reasons why people, they fall short of becoming a great manager. And what can we do to invest in ourselves? What is there and how can we invest in ourselves? And that investment is trying to self-develop ourselves. And that is the investment that is needed. That is the working that is needed on our personality. We need to improve our personality so that we are able to travel from being a mediocre manager, from being a good manager to a great manager. Now, here we have got some examples of great managers. We have got Henry Ford, Jack Welch, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Akio Morita. He's the founder of Sony. Now the question that we can ask to ourselves is, why are they a great manager? What have they done to be a great manager, to be classified as great managers? And in my view, why they are great managers is because they lived a life of higher purpose, and it was not self-serving. When we have a purpose which is higher, then all the lower values and the purposes, they diminish. And that is called as law of diminishing values. They had high personal and professional values. They knew how to work with people, understand people, and develop relationships. Good manager plays checker, whereas a great manager plays chess. He has the picture of his entire team. He knows the strength and weaknesses of each and every employee reporting to that manager. And he plays the game of chess. He will place the employee to do the right job at the right time. Whereas good manager will only do what he's supposed to do without actually using the strengths and weaknesses of the employees to achieve a outcome. Now, we all know about Henry Ford. He was trying to have this petrol automobile engine, and all qualified engineers were sitting around him, and he was putting this proposal that I want this, I want every person, I want this motor car to be very affordable, and let's come up with some kind of solution where it is less expensive. And people, they had different views, and almost everyone suggested that it cannot be done. And he said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. So in both ways, you are right. The limitation, you're imposing the limitation by your own self. If you think you can be a good manager, you can be a good manager. If you think you can't be a great manager, you won't be able to be a great manager, because those are the limitations which are self-imposed. Now again here, Jack Welch, he has got a very important message. If you pick the right people and give them the opportunity to spread their wings and put compensation as a carrier behind it, you almost don't have to manage them. And it says the talent of the manager lies in picking the right and choosing the right candidate to do the right job. And he says you don't need to micromanage your people. You need to give them that autonomy and freedom to perform the job that they are supposed to do. If you pick the right people and give them the opportunity to spread their wings and put compensation as a carrier behind, compensation is some kind of incentive behind it, you almost don't have to manage them. And that's very true. That's very true. Now, Steve Jobs, he was the co-founder of Apple. If today were the last day of your life, and would you want to do what you are about to do today as a manager? To be a moral manager, to be an ethical manager, to be a just manager? We need to ask this question to ourselves every minute, because in the world of spirituality, anything that goes around comes around. If you try to cheat your employer today, tomorrow you'll be cheated by someone else. And that's the whole philosophy. And he says that whenever you are in dilemma, ask this question to yourself. The thing that you're going to do now, if you're going to gossip as a manager, if you're going to scold, or if you're going to criticize your subordinate, think twice. And here, Bill Gates, he has got another quotation over here. If you're born poor, it's not your mistake, but if you die poor, it's your mistake. And it is again trying to challenge our limitations. It's trying to motivate us to think outside the box. And management education that we have today, and the whole education system that we have today, has actually confined us to a box, and it has limited our thinking within a defined limitation. And we cannot think outside the box. And great managers, they think outside the box. To be a great manager, you have to think outside that box. With the kind, Albert Einstein said once that the kind of thinking and the ability that has brought me today here will not take me beyond this. So there is something else that needs to be added to take you beyond that. And that's something else. We are managers, we are qualified, we have got the required qualification, we have got the required university degree, but that is not enough. There is something else that needs to be used, that is going to help us in crossing that river, and that is the spirituality. And all those people that we have got the example over here, including Akio Morita, they were a spiritual person. They may not be a religious person. There is a vast difference. There is a big gap between being a spiritual person and being a religious person. Not necessarily that every religious person is a spiritual person, and not all spiritual person, they are religious person. But spirituality is different, and if I have to define spirituality, I would say that it is law of ethical existence. And I'm a strong believer that that has got the potential to make us a successful person in life. Whether you examine the life of great managers, whether you examine the life of great leaders, or whether you examine the life of great people, spirituality has something to do with that. Management alone cannot help. There are many other great examples. One of them is Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin Group. Michael Dell, founder of Dell Computers. So all these great managers, they knew how to plan and coordinate the movement of others. That is what I mean, that they were great at playing chess, that they knew the strength and weaknesses of their employees, and they were able to place them at the right time, at the right place. And they had that art of planning and coordinating the movements of others. Now, it is not the quality itself that makes any person a good or great. We'll move in the next slide, we'll examine some of the qualities that people they think is needed. And Roosevelt, American president, he said that the most single ingredient of success is to know how you get along with people. And this is what the art is. Great managers, they had this art, and they have this art. How to get along with people, how to work with people, how to understand them, and how to develop a great relationship. This is the key of becoming a great manager. This is the key of becoming a great leader. And this can only happen if you have got the right attitude. You can change anything in the world, and you can achieve anything in the world if you have got the right temperament and the right attitude. Now, the question to that, why they were great managers, and I don't find that the qualities they were competent people, fine, but it is not necessary that all of them they were university qualified. They were dropouts as well. Bill Gates is a dropout, but still he is the owner of the biggest and the largest company on the planet. It is not the qualities alone that makes you a great or a good manager. Qualities, these are some of the qualities that all good managers they have it. These are the qualities that all great managers they have it. And what is that transition? We had that graph. What is that takes you, we'll go back to that. What is that takes you from being a mediocre to a great? It is not the qualities alone that takes you from being a mediocre to a great manager, or from being a mediocre to a good manager. There is something else, and that's where my answer comes to that, is that that's something else. That 1 degree difference is your spirituality. Fair-minded, we all understand that. We don't need to elaborate on that and explain that. Passionate, delegator, strategic, charismatic, authoritative, resourceful, good-natured, positive, expert, that is competency, results-oriented, empathetic, advocate, that is good, advocate means good communicator, accessible means approachable, that the person is open-minded and is approachable by the employees, transparent means not being diplomatic, not being political, transparent, what is in, that is out, trustworthy, organized, and team player. These qualities are there. Now, Google did another survey to find out what is it that makes people a great employee. Now, we have established this, that these qualities are present, and these qualities alone, they don't have the potential to make you a great manager. Now, we'll move to the next one and see what Google had to say. What makes a great manager? The 8 habits of highly effective Google managers. And they did extensive research, and they came up with this 8 ideas. And it says, be a good coach, empower your team and don't micromanage. That's very true. That is one of the biggest drawback that we should avoid. We should not micromanage our team members because it is counterproductive and it creates that vicious cycle of envy and jealousy. So we should always try to refrain from micromanaging, and there are many other management styles that people have. Micromanagement is one of the styles. There is another management style which is called as a wheelbarrow management style, where we try to push employees to do more and more and more, so like pushing of the wheelbarrow. And there's another management style which is called as mushroom management style. Mushroom management style is that mushroom is grown in dark and dirt is dumped on the mushroom to grow. And that's what mushroom management style says, that the employees, they are kept in dark, and from time to time dirt is thrown on them, dirt in the sense that they are pressurized and they are put under workload, and that is called as mushroom management. So that those are some management styles that we should avoid. And there is another one that was Stephen Covey in his book. He has mentioned about seagull management style, in which it is that the seagull will keep flying, and from time to time it will talk to its team members and say something and then fly back again, and then that manager is unavailable for further consultation or feedback, and then that manager will reappear and will say something, show his presence, and then disappear again. That is seagull management style. So empower your team and don't micromanage. Empower means that you give them the right things to do the right job. So give them that autonomy to do their job. Third is express interest in employees' success and well-being. So it is trying to say that dissolve, have that distinction, have no distinction between I and we. So work as a team member and do not have that bifurcation as us and them. So it says express interest in employees' success and well-being. Fourth, it says be productive and results oriented. Fifth is be a good communicator and listen to your team. Very obvious. And in some of the sessions we have already discussed what a good communicator is. A good communicator is someone who is able to communicate, and in communication listening has got more importance. Listening plays an important role. Listening plays near about 67% in communication, and it is remaining 33% is talking. Help your employees with career development. That is again aligned to the 5 basic tasks that we discussed, was given by Peter Drucker. Have a clear vision and strategy for the team. Have key technical skills so you can help advise the team. That is key competency. But I wonder, Google did a extensive research, and it is a big project, and they came up with these 8 ideas, but I disagree that they needed that much of research to find out these 8 points, which are basically common sense. And even Google they admitted that they were unable to make their bad managers a great manager. So they actually asked their managers to follow this, and they were continuously monitored to find out the right result, and then from the right at the right time they were given that performance appraisal, and they were ensured that they are on the right track. So from time to time they were controlled and monitored, but this didn't prove to be very effective, and they were not successful in actually making their bad managers a great manager. They were able to make their good managers a great managers as per their definition, but they were unable to make bad managers a great manager. And that's where the whole idea is, and that's where this is what it prompted me to ask and explore this question. Then what is it that makes a great manager? And I did a deep study on this research paper to find out what was the reason behind all those people. Those data was analyzed. They were good managers. They were managers, those who had those qualities, those basic qualities that is said that it makes you a good or a great manager, but still that those were not enough to classify anyone a great manager. And then I thought, what is it that makes you a great manager? In that comparison, I went back to the great managers and the examples of the great managers that I have given. I did a comparison to find out what is that gap that makes you a great manager. So here in the next slide, I have got some unscientific tips for being a great manager, which is not unscientific in the sense that I haven't done any research on this. I haven't produced any paper, nor it has been debatable by other academic people. And that's the opinion and that's the view that I have formed, that this is what it makes you a great manager. What makes you a great manager is, how to be a great manager is that know thyself, renounce negativity, practice golden rule, think wisely, act honestly. And if this is practiced for 21 days, it will definitely produce some result. Why 21 days is that many people, they have got this view that if something is practiced for 21 days, it becomes habit. And once it becomes habit, then automatically without any effort you do it, because 95% of the time and 95% of the work that we do is we only use our subconscious mind, because it becomes a habit and we do it without actually using the conscious mind. So only 5% of the task and 5% of the time we only use the conscious mind. So 95% of the time, whatever we do in the day is the subconscious mind that plays the important role. And that's where it says that if you practice something for 21 days, it becomes a habit, and that becomes that goes into your subconscious mind, and you do it automatically. And what it means, and all these four things that we have got in front of us, is they have got this root in all the more popular world cultures. It has not taken from one religion or spiritual path or from one culture. These four things, they are common in all the cultures, they are common in all the religion, and they have been followed from time to time. Know thyself is, again, we can trace it to Christianity, we can trace it to Hinduism, we can trace it to Buddhism, we can trace it to Islam. This know thyself, this phrase, this maxim appears on the temple of Apollo at Delphi in Greece. And know thyself means to know what you know, and to know what you don't know is a sign of a person who knows. It is you analyze your strength and weaknesses, but know thyself has got an important thing. You can not know yourself until unless you're not yourself. I'll repeat, the full is to know what you know, to know what you don't know. And the person who knows is a sign of a person who is a knowledgeable person. Now it says that you cannot, there is another twist to it, that you cannot know yourself, you cannot know thyself without being yourself, because you have to be yourself. And in the modern times, in this world, right from our upbringing to our adulthood, we constantly change ourselves because we live on the acceptance and approvals of others. When we are in the school, when we are at home, when we are children, when we are kids, we try to get the approval of our parents, we try to get the acceptance of our parents. And then when we move to the school culture, we try to get that acceptance from our teachers. When we move to the workplace, we try to get the approval and acceptance of the boss. So we get into that trap and we are never ourselves. And you cannot know yourself until you be yourself. So you have to be yourself. You have to be the true self to know yourself. And with all that changes that happens, the mind is conditioned. And we start living a life of something which is illusion, which is not the true real life, the life that we are living, because that is the life which has been imposed on us by our surrounding, that is the life which has been imposed by us, by our experience, by our education system. So know thyself, that's what it means, that you need to know yourself. And how can you know yourself? You need to analyze your strengths and weaknesses. And what can you do? That you can do your brainstorming, you can do self-reflection, identify your strength and weaknesses. You accept your weaknesses but improve your strength, because it will take less time and energy to improve your strength than it will take to actually improve your weaknesses. So work on your strength, so it will give you an edge and it will help you in progressing further. And this is what it means, that basically in the management world we call it a SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunity, threat analysis. That's what you do. You need to do that strength and weaknesses in the silence. You need to do that contemplation, you need to do that self-reflection, and you need to understand what are your weaknesses and strength. Renounce negativity. It means that you look for gold, not for dirt. When you go in a gold mine and you start digging, you have to get rid of a huge amount of dirt. But while digging for gold, do you look for the dirt or you look for the gold? And that's what it says. When you interact with people, when you talk to people, renounce negativity and look for the gold in every people rather than looking the negativity in every person. What happens is that the more negative you are, it creates that cycle. The more the negative thoughts that you feed to your mind, that comes out. So it is garbage in, garbage out. So what you need to do is that you avoid three things, and that is complaining, criticizing, and condemning. And these three things, they are coming from Dale Carnegie. He wrote one of the first books in self-development. So he says that you avoid complaining, criticizing, and condemning. That's what it is. So renounce negativity. Come out of this habit of seeing negative, talking negative, and the moment you get negative thoughts, fly it off like you fly flies. Now, another is practice golden rule. This has got its roots in all the popular culture. It has got in Hinduism. It comes from Bhagavad Gita. It has got in Christianity as well. And it says that do unto others. What it means is that the rule is that treat people as you want them to treat you. So if you want people to treat you with respect, you need to treat them with respect. And this is the rule that we need to follow in our day-to-day life. And strictly speaking, if this golden rule is followed in our day-to-day business, we'll be a better person. And it will make people around us happier, and it will make our workplace happier, because no one wants to be treated badly. Everyone wants to be respected. Everyone wants that appreciation and acknowledgement. So that if you accept and if you want those things, you need to give those things. So it is a give and take. What you give, you take. So it says, and how can you do it? And there is a prayer which is from Bible, which says, may I gain no victory that harms me or my opponent. May I reconcile friends who are mad at each other. May I, in so far as I can, give all necessary help to my friends and to all who are in need. May I never fail a friend in trouble. So this is the prayer, and this is a altruistic prayer which is talking about the welfare of everyone. Now, the last one that we have is think wisely, act honestly. Think before you act. And think, suppose you see a fat girl and you call that girl fat. So what would be the repercussions of your calling that girl a fat girl? She will spend her lifetime starving. So think before you act. And when you don't know what to do, then the honesty is the best policy, said by Benjamin Franklin. The world that we live in is actually the mirror of our own self. And the mind is like a magnet. If you put the positive vibes in the surrounding, the mind is going to attract positive vibes. If you throw the negative vibes, you will attract negativity. So we get what we give. So if we have a dishonest intention, we won't be able to produce a result that is fulfilling. At some stage, we will be trapped in that dishonest act. Now, how can we improve our thinking? We can improve our thinking by cultivating a mind and cultivating silence. And I remember there is something in Bhagavad Gita which says that uncultivated mind, uncontrolled mind is like unanchored boat which is tossed away by the wind. So it says, what can you do to improve your thinking? And if your thinking is wise, if you think wisely, if there is clarity in thinking, your act will follow your thinking. You cannot feel jealous without thinking. So thinking and acting, they have got a strong relationship because you act what you think. So thinking influences your feeling and feeling influences your act. So if there is a clarity of thinking and if you think wisely, your act will be honest. And honest is that what you think is right and in the interest of the organization. Even if you think of wasting time, it is an act of dishonesty because you are being paid to follow the ethics and be a dedicated employee and give value for money. That is what it means here. And this can be, I have got something from here which comes from a philosophy which says, but a mind that has learned the discipline of silence examines all the thoughts and after a while quietly slips into the silent gap between the thoughts. In this silence, the right choice is made with effortless ease because the mind is less cluttered. If the mind is chaotic, you won't be able to make a wise decision. You won't be able to think rightly. So in clarity of mind, in the stillness of water, you will be able to see the depth of the bed. Now, this is the last slide. What is the relationship between spirituality and management? It is not that I am trying to come up with this hypothesis or I'm trying to have my own opinion. This has got roots in what other management teachers and gurus have already said that, and even in the new age management consulting, there was a survey done in America and that came out that many management consultants, they're actually trying to drive the management principles from Eastern philosophy, trying to work in a meditative, and that's where they're trying to work in a meditative state of consciousness in order to learn how to run a business. A meditative state of consciousness is that they're trying to be more mindful of their daily act. They try to live in that consciousness rather than actually being repulsive and responding to things through subconscious mind, but trying to be more aware of the present surrounding and being in that conscious state. So it's nothing, and it is in practice, and people, they're trying to drive that inspiration and information from the management, from Eastern philosophy. Top management people like Peter Drucker, Stephen Covey, and Peter Singh, they have written and they have admitted the importance of spirituality as well. Peter Drucker, he has mentioned that mankind needs to return to the spiritual values, for it needs compassion. It needs the deep experience that the thou and the I are one, which are higher religions share, which all higher religions share. So this is deeply ingrained in spirituality. And Steve Covey, in his book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he has mentioned that he has taken a quote directly from Bible, and he says that search your own heart with all diligence, for out of it flow the issues of life. So what it means here is that all the problems that you encounter, you search your own heart and the solution flows from your own heart. Peter Singh, he wrote a famous book and he is credited for system thinking, and he had taken inspiration from Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, and he did mention about something as that we live in a world which has got structural limitation. And in that book he gave an example that suppose there is a lotus in a pond that doubles every day. So he said, and the whole pond is full of lotus in 1 month. So on day 1 of, say, July, there is only 1 lotus, but on 2nd it will be 2, and so on and so on. On 28 days it will be half, and the next day it will be half full, and the next day the whole pond will be full of lotus just in a day. But it has taken 28 days to come to that stage. But on 28th day it is half, and then the next day it becomes full. So that a difference of 1 day has given that impact. And the second he's trying to say is that now on the 31st day it has got no place to grow. So we live in a world which has got structural limitations. So this world that we are living in is imposing structural limitations. So that applies to our daily life as well. So the basic idea what he mentioned there was that small differences make a big change. And the second is that after you have reached certain stage, the structural has got a role to play in your limitations. Thank you. We conclude here. Thank you all for attending it. And I'll see if I have got any questions. I'm trying to retrieve questions if I have any. Okay, we don't have many questions. We have got only 2 questions. And the first question is, what are the things pushing or throwing managers to become bad? Why only managers are bad? Why others like architects or team leader not bad? What is making them bad? No, no. This question is coming from Pawan. Now, it's not to say that managers are bad and everyone else is good. It is because this discussion is related to managers, so we are trying to analyze and we are trying to examine what is a great manager, what is a good manager, what is a bad manager. Equally right, business analyst can be a bad manager, bad person, bad employee. Solution architect can be a bad, but that is not the issue here. What we are trying to say is that it's not that all managers are bad. These are the theories, and the people like Peter and Dilbert and Putz, they have got their own view, and even Drucker has got their own view that as a manager we should be able to make the life of other employees easier and simpler rather than making it complicated. And their view is that in the modern times we are making the life of people complicated, life of employees complicated rather than making it simpler. Now, why managers? Because managers are responsible for managing people. They have got certain responsibilities to do that. Like politicians, they have got certain responsibilities to do that. They have accepted those responsibilities, so it is expected that they perform those responsibilities and they stick to the right attitude and honesty. In the same manner, a manager has been delegated with some responsibilities and duties, and there are people, those who are affected by bad decisions. So managers, they need to be careful of the decisions that we make. And let me elaborate on this point. My view is that the manager that we see around, they are product of management institutes. And in management institutes, the kind of education that we are providing is that it is very shallow on business thinking. It is very shallow on spirituality and moral values and ethics. And those managers, when they go to the things, and what happens is they try to impose the things that they have learned in the universities and the institutions on their employees, and that creates the tension. And in the Western world, it is very common, very prominent that people, they suffer from that stress, and they suffer from psychosomatic diseases like heart problems, ulcer, and high blood pressure. So managers, they have got a very important role in the society to play. Managers, they suffer from health issues, and the employees at the same time, they suffer from health issues because of that tension, because that work atmosphere and the workplace is creating that tension, and that tension is being carried at home, and that is also responsible for breaking the personal life and in creating a fragmented family life. So in the Western world, the divorce rate is very high. Why divorce rate is very high? Because of that unpleasant feeling of the workplace is carried home, and then at home that tension is exploded. That breaks the relationship. So I think that there is a very strong relation in the management education, the managers, and the social life, and the problems that we encounter in our life. Now there is a flood of questions. I thought that there are 2 questions, so I was taking my time and answering this question. So I hope I have answered it. I think I have answered this question, so we'll move to the next one. It's true that every manager is not a great manager, and it is tough to change their mentality. So how to change the culture and how to force others to follow 21 days rules? Dinesh, that is what I mean. You don't have to change. You only force if you have that power and authority to do it. If you are a vice president of a company, it is good for you to enforce it. But how can you enforce on your manager, you being subordinate, and you cannot ask your manager to follow this for 21 days? You cannot. But if you are on a higher pedestal, you can enforce and you can follow those rules and ask your employees to follow it and see if it works or it doesn't. But you cannot get your manager to follow it. You can suggest your manager to follow it, but it is up to him whether he wants to follow or he doesn't want to follow, or if he has got a different approach. But what the control that you have is to think and live in awareness that you need to be more mindful of your own strengths and weaknesses. You understand what I mean? Means you cannot. It is true that every manager is not a great manager. That's very true. It's tough to change their mentality. You don't need to change their mentality. What you need to change is you need to change your mentality. Be the change that you want to see the change. And what you can do is, you can only do, there is a prayer which says, it says that give me the serenity to accept the things as they are, and give me the strength and courage to change the things that I can change, and give me the ability to accept the things which I cannot change. So this is wisdom. What you cannot change, you accept it. What you can change, have the courage to change it. And if you can't change the things, then accept the things as they are. You understand? So you have to practice it, not your manager. So if you think that your people are reporting to it, and even if people, they are not reporting to you in your daily life, because those 4 things, they have got their roots from all the popular culture. It is not that I have picked those things from one particular religion or culture, or it only comes from Hinduism and not from Islam and not from Christianity. This is not a religious thing. It is a spirituality. It is a common, and I have explained it what spirituality is. Spirituality is the law of ethical existence. To exist in this universe, we have to cooperate with this universe. We have to live with the cosmos, and there is no distinction between us and the cosmos. Anything that happens on the micro level, it also happens on the macro level. So those 4 ideas, it is not that it can only be being practiced by the good managers or the managers. Anyone can practice it, and this would stand true for anyone. This will have effect on your personal life. This will have effect on your professional life. You start it, you practice it, you see the result. If it is effective, share it with others. This is what I mean. The next is, how would you strike balance with work and life? By the right attitude. Do your work while you're doing your work. Stop the work while you're enjoying your life. That is the right balance. Don't carry your work home. Don't carry your work at work. That distinction, you have to bring that distinction by yourself. And often what we do is that we carry the stress of work at home, and then we are not able to have that right work-life balance. Work-life balance, no one will teach you to have that work-life balance. It is you who has to come up with that solution. And the answer to all the problems lies within us. We think that all the problems that we encounter are big problems. In reality, they are not big problems. They all are small problems, but we think them to be big problems. And all the big problems can be resolved by small and simple solutions. Imagine the thing that matters to you right now. Will it matter to you after, say, a month? Say after 1 year? Say after 10 years? And so imagine after 50 years. So on that, and imagine it on the scale of universe. Your problems on the scale of universe, it has got no existence. It is negligible. So it is this balance. You have to strike the balance, and the balance, the way to strike that balance is that at work, you work. But don't, when you're at home, don't carry your work stress at home. And there should not be any stress. We should have this art, and we should practice this art of working stressless. Freedom from stress. There is no stress, because we stress because of the fear that we won't be able to complete it. Our boss is going to be upset. He is going to be angry, or I'll be fired. This fear is there, and because of that fear, that stress is there. Anyway, you can only do things that are under your control. And things that are beyond your control, you stop worrying about it. The moment you stop worrying about the things that are not within your control, you'll be able to strike that right balance. So you work at work, and at home, you stop stressing about the work. Okay, there is another one. Hi Surya, many thanks for insightful session. What is the difference between leader and manager? Bhima Rappa. Leader and a manager. Leader leads people to a common objective, and a manager manages people towards a common organizational objective. Leader, they have got a higher purpose, they have got a bigger picture. In comparison, managers, they have got a small picture, and they try to manage to achieve the objectives of the organization. Leaders, they lead people to a common objective. This is one definition. Another definition is that leaders, they do right things. Managers, they do the things right. So I'll repeat, leaders, they do the right thing, and managers do the things right. Managers, they only do the things that they are supposed to do, and they do it in the right manner. They have the limitations, and they work within the limitations. But leaders, they don't work within the limitations. They chart out their own route and path, whereas managers, they have to work on the routes and the path that is already predefined by the organization. So managers, they have to follow certain processes, they have to follow procedures, they have to follow policy, and they have to work within the limits that has been defined by the organization or by the superiors. Whereas leaders, they don't have to work within the boundaries that is defined by others. They define their own boundaries, and they work within those boundaries. So take example of any leader like Winston Churchill, or take example of Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela, or say Roosevelt or John F. Kennedy, Napoleon, Hitler. They were leaders. So they were responsible for leading people to a common objective. Mahatma Gandhi was responsible for leading the whole nation towards a common objective of freedom. Great leaders, great managers, they work within those boundaries to fulfill their duties and responsibilities that has been given to them by their employer. Hi, do you think these kind of stuff should be taught in schools to build strong roots of future generation? Vinay Agrawal, of course, these things, they should be taught, and I'm doing a research, and I'm actually, and that's what my research is. I'm doing MPhil, and this is the topic of my research, and in most of my sessions I have been trying to do that, and that's what my intentions are, that I'm trying to promote the culture of self-management and management by values, because I'm a strong believer of that. And the school system that we have is trying to produce employees who are disciplined soldiers, not a free thinking employees. So their thinking is constricted, and that's where this idea is that we need to rethink the way we do the management, because this model is not working now. The model that was created, it was during the Industrial Revolution, and the management theories that we have, it is 50 years and 100 years old, and that was produced for the time for the people to have a dedicated industry and factory workers who were able to carry the things and able to perform a process and carry out a process. But now in this change world, we cannot use the same approach. We need to have a free thinking where we are dealing with IT people, we are dealing with skilled people, and they are smart people. You cannot use the same stick approach to manage them, and that's what my research is, what my research is about combining spirituality with management, and the answer is that without spirituality, management as such is a dehumanizing experience. It is heartless. Like Einstein, he said a religion, a science without religion is lame, and religion without science is blind. And that's where that attitude is, that we need to marry it. We need to marry spirituality and management together. Management alone is not a standalone system. Why? Because management, if we are dealing with people, we affect the life of thousands and thousands of people in our daily life, and management has got an important role to play in the society, because managers, they are responsible for making important decisions, whether it is in the bureaucracy, or whether it is in the corporate world, or whether it is on government departments. So if we have the right managers with the right attitude and with the right education system, we'll be able to get the good ethical moral decisions which will drive the workforce, which will drive the society, which will cultivate a society which is more ethical, a society which has got more not self-serving attitude, which is not based upon greed, but it is based upon a universal brotherhood philosophy. And this is not that it is something, it cannot be done now. It can be done, but over the years of thousands of years of civilization, we are losing those values, and we need to go back to our roots. And it is not my view; it is the view of so many management thinkers, that they think that the answer to our daily problem lies in spirituality, not in religion, but in spirituality, in spiritual thinking, in knowing ourselves, in mindfulness, in self-awareness, in promoting the right culture and ethics. So that is where it is. So I think, of course, that these are the things that it should be taught, and that's one of my aim, is to promote that, and I have started doing that, and that's what my research is. So there's a question here. Hello, I'm a manager in my company. However, whatever we do to pacify the team members, still managers are always bad as per the team members. I believe that there is no good manager anywhere. It is only the self-assessment. This is from Monica. Monica, this is your view, that people, they have classified someone, or your team members, no matter what you do, they classify someone as a bad manager. Then you need to do a self-reflection and introspection on this, why they have got this view that someone is a bad manager. And I will disagree that it is a self-assessment of someone being a good manager. Yes, you can self-assess yourself as a good manager, and you can live in that ivory tower thinking that I'm the great and good manager, but that has got no use. You should be good and great in the eyes of the beholders. It is not in your own eyes. In your own eyes, you should be able to identify your strengths and weaknesses. And if you deny that you don't have those weaknesses, and if you think that the feedback that you're getting it from your team members is useless, then you need to rethink. I would advise that go back to your team members, have a one-to-one session with them, listen to them, what they have to say, and try to understand what they have to say. Take it, what you think is reasonable and justified, and ignore anything which you think is unreasonable, unjustified. And things that you think is reasonable, use it to improve your personal life and your professional life, because it is very hard to find anyone who is able to give you a true and honest feedback. And if you're getting that opportunity of someone calling you a bad manager, use that opportunity in your advantage and find out what is it that makes you a bad manager. And this is what it is. You do a self-reflection on the feedback that you get and ask that question to yourself. How can I improve? It may be that they don't like your attitude. Look, there are so many things that we don't like about the people. And it may be some attitude, some way. Look, I'll tell you what. Even I have a manager, and I think she is a good manager, but at the same time, I don't like her. Why I don't like her is that because most of the time she will be talking about her own self. Either she'll be bragging about her self and self-interest, or the things that she has achieved in life. It would be always about me, me, me. And this is what I don't like. But I have never got this opportunity to actually share this with her and say that, look, I don't like this attitude that you have. She has that attitude that I know that she won't be listening to this conversation. But that's good. My job is safe. But see, sometimes people, they don't share their views. And I haven't shared it with my manager. She's a good manager. She does what is expected. Boss, they are satisfied with her performance. But then there are certain things that this is individual. We are not away from likes and dislikes. And there would be something that the person or your team member, they may not like about you, they may not. And if you know those things, it will be a great help to actually doing that self-reflection and doing that understanding. Now, we'll move to another one and take. How can we see only goodness of an employee when he has badness too? Won't other employees think that he was not warned? Won't other employees think that he was not warned? Now, you see that you need to think both. You have to be transparent in analyzing it. If you have someone who's reporting to you and you think that he or she has got some weaknesses, you need to identify that. But you see that there is a way of doing it. You don't have to be aggressive in identifying it. You can still mention those things being polite. And you can still have a counseling session with your employee. You can still warn that employee, but you cannot ignore it. No, if you're ignoring it, you're not doing the justice. It is like there is a person who is standing on the edge of the cliff and you go there and you just do a small push and he goes down. Now, that is, if you ignore it, then you're not doing in the interest of your employee. You cannot ignore it. Now, what I said is that you need to understand the strength and weaknesses of your employee and use the strength of that employee rather than actually concentrating on the weakness of that employee and now and then highlighting it. Oh, you can't do this. Oh, you come here again. Oh, I know that. Means this kind of attitude, it is not motivating your employee, it is demotivating that employee. So what you need to do is that you need to identify it, help that employee in improving it, but at the same time try to maximize the potential that that employee has. You need to counsel that employee, you need to provide feedback to that employee, you need to help that employee to improve, but at the same time you don't need to criticize that employee. At the same time you don't need to gossip about that employee when you're having your tea with other managers. You don't need to complain about that employee to your superiors. You should give all the opportunity so that he is able to improve. That's what I mean. Do you have some points to validate good and great managers by certain questions? Certain questions, you can validate good managers. Well, we had that definition that according to Jack Welch, a good manager is a person who is able to align the organizational values and who's able to perform the outcomes, who's able to deliver the results. That is the definition of good manager. So you can ask that question to yourself: is my values aligned to the organizational values? Am I performing and delivering the outcomes and the results as expected by my employer? So then the good employee was that at the first we had the definition, which was from WikiHow, that all 5 functions. Am I, as a good manager, am I performing all the 5 functions? So those are the questions that you can ask. And as a great manager, the only question that I'll suggest is that you ask yourself, am I making any difference in the life of people, those who are reporting to me? That is a great manager. And that is the question that you need to ask yourself. Am I making any difference in the life of people, those who are reporting to me? And if you get an answer as yes, you are a great manager. If you get an answer as no, then you are not a great manager. That is the question that I'll say, because every great manager strives to have a win-win outcome. Now, here it is. Sometimes the policies defined by the organization has to be followed by a manager. It might be so that the team under the manager, sorry, I just missed it. Sorry, I missed that question. It seemed like it was an interesting question, but I'll try to go. Yes, I got it. Sometimes the policies defined by organization has to be followed by a manager. It might be so that the team under the manager might not like them. In this case, managers are helpless, which might make them a bad manager. Is there a way out for the managers? Well, this is not a popularity contest. It is not that you're submitting your film in Filmfare Award or an Oscar Award. That this is coming from Pramod. You need to do what is to be done, and you do what is ethical. You do what is honest. You think wisely and do it. It may be that those decisions may be unpopular and your team members may not like it, but you need to answer it. You don't need approval of your team member. And this is what I was explaining, that you don't, whole life, we live our life for others, and we suffer from a syndrome which is like, log kya kahenge. That is the syndrome that we all suffer from. That forget about the peoples, forget about taking approval and acceptance from others. You have to answer to yourself. And the best person who can answer that is your own self. You ask that to your own conscience, whether the things that you're doing is right or it is wrong. If you disagree with what your management has asked, you have the courage, you have the ability to stand it and confront it. If what your managers, they're asking you, your superiors, they're asking you to do is unjustified, unreasonable, unethical, unmoral, then you make a stand and you fight for it. But if you think that what they are asking you to do is right, right not from the right and wrong from others' view, but right and wrong what comes from within you. If you think those things are right and you need to follow it, then follow it. Then don't worry about the outcome. You only, what is under your control is the action. You're only responsible for your own actions. You cannot worry about the outcome of it. But the thing is that you have to question it. That suppose if someone says that you need to look and you need to go and steal something from someone. Suppose my brother, he says that, look, you need to go to the neighbor's house and you need to steal this from neighbor's house. Now, it is my intellect that needs to come into picture. And I need to think that what he has advised me is right or wrong. Not according to right and wrong and right and wrong according to the standards of the world. Right and wrong according to the standards of my own self. If I get that answer from within that this is justified, I should do it or I should not do it, then I should do it. And if an answer comes, no, it is illegal to steal from someone's house, then I should stand and confront it and disobey my brother, saying that, look, I won't do it on such and such ground. Like when you have to oppose your manager, you cannot just go to your manager and say that I won't do it. No, you can't do it. In corporate world, in management world, we don't do that. We can't just go to that because we are trained soldiers. And we have to, we are controlled by chain of command. So we have to go there. We have to go with a reason. George Bernard Shaw, he said that English, they do wrong things with the right logic. So that's what it is. If you go there saying it that I don't want to do it, then you need to have the right logic, right reasons to support why you don't want to do it. So you can do wrong things with the right logic, and that's what George Bernard Shaw said, that English means English, they do wrong things with the correct logic. So I'll take two, and it is getting closer. I'll answer two more questions and then we'll conclude it. I was thinking that there were only two questions to answer, but there have been so many questions coming up. So we'll take this one. At times, even good managers tend to be bad managers, but we can't call them or brand them as bad managers, but the situation has made him act badly. How can such situations be handled? Kumara Giri, Rakesh. When it comes, you're right. Nothing is good or bad. No person is good, no person is bad. It is the circumstances that make a person good or bad. But the responsibility lies on you. If you are a manager, you don't have to go for anyone's acceptance. You need to handle your own situation. If you are expecting someone to come and resolve your own problems, that won't happen. We live our life in great emergency. We think that there is a urgency to live our life, and we try to do everything in rush, as if tomorrow we are planning to die. But whereas we need to enjoy every step of our life, we need to live, not plan for the future. And in that situation, you need to understand that particular situation, because every situation, every incident is there to teach you something. And you need to learn from that situation what it is there to teach you, and you need to handle that situation to find out what it is. It is the introspection, it is self-analysis, it is the SWOT analysis, it is strength, weakness, opportunity, threat analysis. And there is another thing that you can use it, that the fishbone diagram, root cause analysis. You can go to the root of the cause, which is a popular tool that can be used in the management world. And for your question that you have said, that at times even good managers tend to be bad managers, but we can't call them a bad or brand them as bad managers. But the situation has made him act badly. How can such situation be handled? Look, if you are an employee, that is out of the question. You don't have to brand anyone as a good manager. You don't have to brand anyone as a bad manager. But if you are a manager, being a manager, you need to handle a situation. You forget what others have to say about you. You should be happy, fulfilled, and content with what you're doing. If you are happy with your decisions, if you're happy with your situation, if you know what you're doing is right, then forget what others have to say about you. Look, on this one, I just remember. I'll tell you a story. You must have heard about that donkey and father and son trying to sell that donkey. Every town that they moved, someone had something or the other to say about it. When they were walking, people said, look how foolish they are that they're not riding the donkey, but they're walking with the donkey. When the father was riding the donkey, people in the other town, they said, look how foolish he is that the son is walking and this old man is riding the donkey. When both of them they were riding, then in the other town, people they said, look how cruel they are. They both are riding on that poor donkey. When son was riding, the other people they said, look how foolish his son is. The son is riding and the old father is walking. So if you care about world will not keep you happy. World will always have something or the other to say about you. So if you are a manager, forget what others have to say about you. You concentrate on what you have to say about your own self. And you don't need to classify anyone as a good manager or a bad manager. This is not the motive of this session. It is only to analyze what is a good manager, what is a great manager, what is a bad manager, and how can you improve yourself to be a great manager or a great person or a great employee. That is the objective of this. And if you think that you lack something, then you need to practice those 4 things and see if that is going to give you some result. And those 4 things I haven't tested it on anyone. It has not been psychologically tested, but that's the philosophy, that's the idea that this will have some result, this might have some result if it is practiced. And this is the last question that we'll take. Okay, so growing from IC to manager is a major change, like moving from a tadpole to a frog. Like moving from a worm to a butterfly. It takes time and energy by the individual to grow, evolve in something more than what they are today. How does an organization fit into this evolution process? What are some of the ways to hasten this evolution process, since ultimately it affects the present and the future growth or even sustainability of the organization? Well, this is a loaded question and this will take long time to answer this, but I'll read it again. And this is coming from the technology expert. Growing from IC to manager is a major change, like moving from tadpole, that's fine. Like moving from worm to butterfly, fine. It takes a time and energy by individuals to grow, to evolve into something more than what they are today. How does an organization fit into this evolution process? What are some of the ways to hasten this evaluation process, since ultimately it affects the present and future growth or even sustainability of the organization? And this is taking it higher up. It is not now confined to the level of employees and manager relationship. It is confined towards the overall growth of an organization. The overall growth of an organization can evolve like other companies they have evolved. Like Apple, it has evolved. Like General Electric, it has evolved. By striking the right balance between the business ethics and the business objective. If we are successful in striking the right balance, the organization will be able to evolve in the future. So the mission and the goal of any organization in evolving should be the business ethics and the business objective. Business objective is to make revenue, to produce, at the same time is business ethics, and we should not compromise any of them. Business ethics, business values should not be compromised to generate profit. At the same time, to generate profit, business ethics, they should not be compromised. And this would be a goal to achieve a fulfilling organization where all employees are happy and content and fulfilled. That's what I think in all the organization that we evolve, that would be helpful to have two goals and to have that. And when I say that, it means, let me give an example. There was a horse which came to a person's yard, and that horse wasn't branded. So the owner of that yard said that, I don't know whose horse it is. And he thought, what is there that I can do? So he brought the horse on the road and he started riding the horse. From time to time, the horse used to deviate from the road, and it used to go to the field. Then the rider used to bring it back on the road, and eventually that horse reached the place of its owner. Now the owner asked that rider that, how were you able to find out that this horse belonged to me? So that the rider, he answered that, I didn't do anything. The only thing that I did was that I gave direction to the horse, and from time to time I patted it when it got distracted. So any organization that wants to grow should have these both values, business values and the profit and generating revenue things together, and they should be closely aligned, and from time to time they both need to be given direction to keep them on track, but they should not be compromised in any sense. And all these things, they matter on a larger scale. They might seem to be very minimum, very small in today's perspective, but on larger scale they all matter. I'll give you another story, that there was an old man. Every evening he used to walk by the side of the beach, and his neighbor, he thought, what is he doing that every evening he goes to the beach? So one day he followed and he saw that old man throwing something back in the ocean. So that neighbor went to that old man and he laughed and he said, what do you think, by throwing this starfish back in the ocean, will you be able to save all that starfish that have been washed on the shore? So that old man lifted one starfish and he pointed to that it matters to this. So yes, it may not matter on a very large scale, but it does matter to the employees, those who are working within that organization. Yes, it takes a long time to evolve. It has taken a long time for us all to evolve. We have evolved from amoeba to a human being, but now it is our responsibility to actually protect the ecology and protect the environment that we live, so that it's able to sustain it. In the same way, in any organization, that organization needs to grow and evolve, and that when the organization has grown, it needs to sustain that organization. And this is what it is called as system thinking. Small systems, they combine to make a big system, and that big system becomes the part of the universe. And this is, they take for an example as this human body. Our circulation system, our digestive system, our reproductive system, our respiration system, these are small systems. They combine together to form one body. And that's what it is in organization, that small bodies, they combine together to give a shape of a big organization. But at the same time, what goes on the micro level, it also goes on the macro level. But we should not deviate from the objective of it. Once the organization has evolved, or the organization is evolving, we should have those values, and we should test those values with the employees, those who are able to work. And say for an example, that if we are in an organization, and if I am the chairman of that organization, I would from time to time, I would like to strike the right balance between life and work. I would like to keep a happy index matrix of my employees and find out how happy and content they are, not only how well they are paid, but at the same time, how happy. I would conduct a survey to find out how happy my employees are, how content my employees are. And that can only happen if we follow the right things, if we are able to follow the spiritual wisdom, and if we are able to incorporate that in our business objective and in our business world. So to answer that in short is that we need to align both objectives without actually compromising anything, and this all matters on the larger scale, and this all matters on a small scale. It may not matter to everyone, but it matters to the person whose life is affected by that organization or by that person. Thank you so much. There are more questions. We'll conclude it here. I have taken so much time. So there were questions, and they were really some very interesting questions, and I'm very thankful and glad to see that participation and receive those difficult questions that got me thinking as well. Thank you. Thank you all.
Well, thank you so much for the insightful presentation, Surya. Thank you so much for answering so many questions as well. We receive a lot of questions in your webinars, and that is a great sign. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success and taking keen interest in sending us so many questions. The recording of this session would be available on techgig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Moni.